Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Walpole Select Board. It's now 7 o'clock. We're a little after our posted time of the meeting, so I'll call the meeting to order, and as always, we'll stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business is with Ken Southwood, who is seeking an appointment to the Ponds Committee. Ken? Is Ken here?
Sí. Sí.
No Ken? Okay. Why don't we do this? We'll defer on it and see if Ken comes in a little later, and we'll deal with it later in the agenda, okay? So, 7:05, we've got a public hearing for installation of tanks in the ground for Prestige Gas located at 2285 Providence Highway. So, could I have a motion to open a public hearing?
Make a motion to open the public hearing for the installation of tanks for prestigious gas.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. We're now in a public hearing. So who is here to represent Prestige? Yes, please come up to the podium and introduce yourself.
My name is Ronan Drury, 2285 Providence Highway, Prestige Gas.
Thank you. Welcome. So you want to tell us about the project?
Basically, we redid the station over, put new tanks. We put the same size tanks, so there's no different in capacity of the underground storage tanks. We did the pumps over, the canopy, and pretty much just the store was existing, so we just kind of cleaned it up from the inside and outside and made it look a lot better than what it was. And, just like I said, the amount of storage capacity is exactly the same, so there's no different in storage capacity.
Terrific. Okay. Okay, I see we did get the confirmation letter from DFS Compliance and Enforcement, so Paul Berry says we're good with that. I think all the rest of the paperwork's in order. Any questions for the applicant? Anybody?
I think it looks good. I drove by a couple of times, so.
I do too.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nancy.
No really questions, but thank you for cleaning up the site. It does look a lot nicer.
Thank you very much. We plan to keep it that way.
Thank you. Now, since we're in a public hearing, I'd open the floor for public comment. If anybody's here to speak to this item. Okay, there being none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. We're now out of the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for Prestige Gas to install a 12,000-gallon gas tank and one 4,000 gas tank and one 4,000 diesel fuel tank at 2285 Providence Highway.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thanks very much. Appreciate everything
Good
you're
luck.
doing there. Good
Good
luck,
evening.
okay? Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is the appointment of Deputy Sergeant Richard Kelleher as our new Deputy Chief. So, Chief Carmichael, if you'd like to come up and talk to us about the process, and then we'll talk to Detective Sergeant Kelleher and vote.
Thank you. It is my honor and privilege to recommend Sergeant Richard Kelleher for the position of Deputy Chief within the Walpole Police Department. As you know, 5 qualified internal candidates participated in the Deputy Chief Assessment Center, and the interview process also continued on with members of the board. All 5 candidates did an amazing job representing themselves and the Walpole Police Department. Detective Sergeant Kelleher earned the highest mark resulting from the assessment center process. Detective Sergeant Kelleher is a 15-year veteran police officer, 12 of which he has served honorably with the Walpole Police Department. During his tenure with the department, Detective Sergeant Kelleher worked 4 years as a patrol officer, 5 years as a case detective, and over 3 years as a supervisor, overseeing patrol shifts as the investigations division of the department. That consists of 6 detectives, school resource officers, and 1 golden retriever. As documented in my written recommendation that I sent to the board, Detective Sergeant Kelleher holds a bachelor's degree from Bentley University. He has extensive training in criminal law and procedure, as well as management of police personnel. He's had numerous awards and commendations for his exemplary service to the citizens of Walpole. And he's been involved behind the scenes with the most sensitive, complex, and high-profile cases that are investigated by the department. Detective Sergeant Kelleher has excelled in many areas of the department, and he's instrumental in assuming responsibility for crucial and onerous tasks within the agency. Those include tracking and preserving all the evidence collected by the department, overseeing drug custody and drug destruction protocol, investigative case management, asset forfeiture, criminal and adult juvenile court case management, and supervision of our school resource officers. A lot to do. That's a very onerous job. For the last several years, Detective Sergeant Kelleher has served as the supervisor on the Norfolk County Police Anti-Crime Task Force, NORPAC, overseeing important drug task operations, including the review and execution of search warrants, operations plans, and affidavits. In addition to Detective Sergeant Kelleher's strong work ethic, he has excelled in other areas of leadership within the department. Detective Sergeant Kelleher has consistently mentored younger officers and detectives and has earned the respect and admiration of police personnel, including civilian staff, dispatchers, and sworn officers of the department. He maintains a personal ability to communicate, has a strong sense of emotional intelligence, and constantly demonstrates leadership by example. Notably, even though Detective Sergeant Kelleher's division is a plainclothes investigative unit, he has entered and ensured that detectives under his leadership are frequently involved in our community policing activities. Detective Sergeant Kelleher and our detectives under his supervision routinely attend our community policing events, our ride to school events, basketball cop, street hockey cop, sporting events, and they're heavily involved in our partnership with the schools, and especially our ALICE training protocol that we've been going over for the past couple of years in the school system. Detective Sergeant Kelleher has earned the respect and mutual trust of members of the department, town officials, and the community at large. He has consistently demonstrated the highest degree of integrity, trustworthiness, dedication, and dependability as a police leader. Detective Sergeant Kelleher understands the mission, vision, and values of the department and the expectations of the citizens of Walpole. He embraces the community policing philosophy and he knows operationally what needs to be done on a daily basis. As the chief, Detective Sergeant Kelleher has proven himself a well-balanced leader and someone I can trust and have confidence in to complement me in achieving the daily missions of the department. He is someone capable of motivating and inspiring officers. He holds himself to high personal and professional standards and bearing, and he expects the same of others. He is someone I can confide in as chief and someone I can depend on to get the job done when I am preoccupied. There is no doubt Detective Sergeant Kelleher will enhance the command staff of the department and provide superior leadership to our staff. Most importantly, Detective Sergeant Kelleher is prepared to ensure the quality of policing which the town of Walpole has come to expect from their police department, and that's sustained for a long time to come. I am excited about the new transformation, and we will continue our unyielding desire to be one of the best law enforcement agencies within the area. As Deputy Chief, Rich Kelleher will undoubtedly help us get there. Thank you.
Great, well, thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. I know you went through a very rigorous process with the Chiefs Committee that you brought in to help do the assessments and all of that, and I want to thank you for going through that. Perhaps we could have Detective Sergeant Kelleher come up to the podium and say a few words as well. Good evening, congratulations.
Good evening, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Maybe you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and talk about why you want to be the deputy chief and what you intend to accomplish.
Well, again, for those who don't know me, my name is Rich Kelleher. I'm the detective sergeant. Been in that role since 2016. I've been with the department since 2012 when I transferred from the Medfield Police Department, and I worked there for 2.5 years prior to that. I live locally with my wife and 2 boys, Connor and Ryan, who are here tonight. Buddy, there you go. They're very excited. So I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm honored. I appreciate your time, and I thank you for having me here tonight. I've worked since I've been here to try to lead by example and to try to be a leader that everybody would like to follow, and I would really plan to continue to do that going forward. As deputy chief, it's important to be able to follow the department's mission and to continue to engage the community that's been so supportive of us, and I'm really looking forward to having the opportunity to do that in the years going forward, and lead the department into the future.
Great. Well, thank you for those remarks. I will tell you that we had the opportunity to interview and the other finalist candidates, and I thought, first of all, I thought all of the candidates were great candidates. I thought you were a terrific candidate and stood out. I noted a couple of things as I went back through my notes that I just thought were probably worth talking about. You and I talked about, why do you want to be the deputy chief, and you talked in terms of the future and building out the department and your vision for the future, which I thought was really powerful and important. You also mentioned that you saw the biggest asset of the department is the people, and you wanted a hand in selecting the people that we're going to put on the streets and in training them and so forth. So I thought that was also a really, great part of our conversation. And the final piece, and there were many, but the final piece was your community engagement. And even as a detective, your continued involvement with the community policing work, and as you know, that's very important to us here in Walpole. So I was very impressed by that as well. So I was very, very pleased with our conversation and wholeheartedly support the recommendation from the chief, of course, and I want to congratulate you. I think you'll be an outstanding chief, and we're looking forward to it. And with that, I'll open up to the board for other comments or questions.
Sure.
David.
I similarly like the process. I like talking to you guys one-on-one, and we did that with all three candidates. It was one of the things that I took out of it is that when there was you were modest in you always gave credit to your group as far as what was accomplished. And even with the events and the things that you'd been involved in, one of the things you were most proud of was the evidence room, and I just thought that was a unique situation, considering that you've been involved in investigations and all of those things. But so I agree that this is a good fit with the chief and a good fit with the department. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Izzy?
Rich, I think it's great seeing everyone that got you here tonight in this room. I think that's awesome. And good luck.
Thank you.
Others?
Sure. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And one thing that I did want to mention is, and that stuck out to me in all of the information that we were given, is your commitment to the community policing philosophy. And so operationally and being able to communicate with other people in the department and being organized and all of those things are great and critical. But really what I feel like Chief Carmichael has done with the police department and being a resident here and having kids in the schools is really to ensure that community policing philosophy being open and approachable and really part of the fabric of the community. So I'm really happy that you're as committed to that as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure. I'll just say, Chief, I enjoyed the process again. It was really nice to sit down with the three finalists and have a chance to chat about things we don't usually get a chance to chat about. And people have covered it pretty well, but community policing is an important aspect of Walpole, and I think it's working well. And I think it's great, the more people that get to know the police officers, the better. And we had some chat about that. So I just want to say congratulations. I think you'll do a great job for the town of Walpole.
Thank you very much.
So the deputy chief role, of course, is a very, very important role here in town, second only to the chief, and you are the chief when the chief is not here.
Right.
And so this is a tremendous opportunity and honor for you, and wish you the very best as you step into this new role.
Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to it. Like I said to you in the past when I met with each of you, that the men and women here tonight are the biggest asset of the department. And I think because of their hard work and what they do each and every day, it makes them one of the best police departments in the Commonwealth. And I'm beyond honored and excited to step into this role to lead them into the future.
Tremendous. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to appoint Detective Sergeant Richard Kelleher as the new Walpole Deputy Chief of Police.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. Congratulations.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain. I'm sorry, 401.
1.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
If we could, Deputy Chief Kelleher will be pinned by his wife Karen,
That'd be awesome.
and his sons Connor and I. Oh, maybe not.
Here it comes.
Not funny.
Awesome. Good job, Chief. Yeah, that's a big step forward, so thank you.
Thank you all.
So we've got now the appointment of Patrick O'Connor to the position of Police Sergeant. So Chief, if you'll take us through that one as well.
And if I could, very quickly, in between transition, the board most recently promoted Sergeant Ian Tolan to Sergeant back in August, I believe it was. And since we have such a crucial position that's going to be opening up now with Deputy Chief Kelleher, I would like to just recognize Sergeant Toland, who I will be assigning to the Detective Division in order to operate the detective unit.
That's great news.
So I usually don't like promoting people that are taller than me. But in this case. It is my honor and privilege to recommend Officer Patrick O'Connor to the position of Police Sergeant within the Walpole Police Department. Officer O'Connor has been a police officer since 2012, when he began his career with the Nantucket Police Department. In 2016, Officer O'Connor joined the ranks of the Walpole Police Department, and he has made a remarkable addition to the department ever since. Officer O'Connor holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He is fluent in French and Haitian Creole. He is a certified crisis intervention techniques officer, rape aggression defense instructor, street-level narcotics certified, and he's a graduate of the Northeast Counter Drug Training Center, Top Gun, Undercover Drug Investigation School. Officer O'Connor is trained as an ALICE instructor, alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate, and he's been instrumental in accomplishing the colossal task of training all Walpole schools, our municipal officers in the Council on Aging and Critical Incident Response Protocol. Officer O'Connor is also trained in ARIDE, Advanced Roadside and Peer Driving Enforcement, which focuses on field sobriety testing involving drugs, and he's trained as an ATV, all-terrain vehicle instructor for the department. In addition to Officer O'Connor's education and training, he is the epitome of an officer in which other officers should strive to emulate. He's literally one of the most genuine, nicest people I've ever met. And his personality and charisma allows him to excel in our community policing philosophy and initiatives because his pleasantness and compassion for others is very profound. Over the past few years, Officer O'Connor has assumed responsibilities in the department as the medical control officer for the department, a school liaison to the Bi-County Collaborative School, and the Home for Little Wanderers. His personal characteristics include compassion, humility, dependability, responsibility, and personal initiative, and that has allowed him to earn the respect and admiration of his peers, command staff, and members of the public. Officer O'Connor proved himself to be a leader long before he offered stripes on his uniform, and he will be an exemplary addition to an already robust staff for first-line supervisors within the Walpole Police Department. Officer O'Connor has my unrelenting support to be the next police sergeant of the Walpole Police Department.
Thank you, Chief. Officer O'Connor, if you'd come up and welcome and congratulations.
Thank you very
It's
much.
a great deal and a big deal for you. Maybe you could just say a few words about yourself and your
Absolutely.
role and so forth.
Absolutely, thank you. And thank you, Chief Carmichael, for those kind words. I really appreciate it. It's very nice. Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. thank you to the men and women that I work with. Really appreciate it. Not easy for everyone to get together like this, and I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you to my fiance Margaret, and my parents, my grandma, for being here tonight. I was very fortunate at a young age to get into this job. I became a police officer when I was 21 years old. Not often does that happen, so I've been very lucky in my career. That being said, I've learned a lot at a young age, and I'm looking forward to taking the next step in this career, a supervisory role. And I just want to thank the chief for his words of encouragement, and looking forward to the next step.
Terrific. Well, it's great to be seeing us being able to promote from within, and great to have you here, and congratulations tonight.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments for Officer O'Connor?
I'll just say congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, then we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to appoint Patrick O'Connor to the position of police sergeant.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Abstained.
abstained. 4-0-1. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Well done. Congratulations.
Sergeant O'Connor will be pinned by his fiancee Margaret. They will be getting married in August.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And Chief, I would also say that it's nice to be able to see that we're able to promote from within the department, and that you have that kind of leadership talent and bench strength and depth. And that certainly came through in the interviews that we did for Deputy Chief, and it's clear that you have officers that are able to move up into the next level as sergeant as well. So that's a tribute to yourself and to the entire team that you've assembled here. And by the way, it's tremendous to see this kind of a turnout at one of these events, so thank you all for being here. It says a lot for this department. Thank you, Chief. Okay.
And you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you don't have to.
I'm just going to pause for a minute and let the room empty out a little bit here. So,
Bye.
Manager guy is.
John White got back to me.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, I said to her not to worry. I
But it's for the first time ever, 2 female sergeants in
she
chief,
picks up on anything.
being first on the list.
I saw her email.
Interviewed the last 2 times, but recused herself this time. She's first on the list.
Where are you, Jonathan?
I couldn't hear you.
I said, Bethany Taylor in the back row was first on the list. She recused herself. She's been passed over twice, interviewed for the last 2.
Okay, yeah, I saw them running.
It's okay.
What's going on again? I just saw him the other day, and I said, Ken, I have to be here by 7 o'clock.
Is it good?
He is a good one. Yes.
Is that how the document comes? Because there's some of the boxes,
We all have to sit there.
Funky.
yeah,
That's how it
it's
came
the only
in.
way it prints it.
okay, so
Wow, that was empty.
gonna move us along now to our next order of business, which is a change of manager for Wines and More to Jonathan Gentili. Is Jonathan here? Great. Maybe you could come up and introduce yourselves. And
Which one's mine?
Good evening, how are you tonight?
very good. How are you?
Good. My name is Craig Power. I'm the Vice President of Operations with Wines and More over here in Walpole. And I have with me Jonathan Gentili, who's the applicant, the change of manager. I believe all our paperwork is in order, although it took a little bit of time getting used to the new system to do that. But it's all in order. Jonathan has about 4.5 years of management experience in the alcohol beverage business. He is stop trained. as well as all of his staff is stop trained. He employs approximately 13 people at the location there, and they're all stop trained. Very customer focused, and very intent on making sure that our policies with regards to the service of alcohol is followed properly there. Fine young gentleman. I enjoy working with him, and I think he's an excellent candidate for the position there.
Great. So Jonathan, maybe you could just step up to the mic and say a few things about yourself and your background. And
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jonathan Gentili. My dad's side of the family is actually from Walpole, so I have a little bit of a connection here. I've actually been used. I go to the fireworks every 4th of July, well 3rd of July, out this way. So there's a little bit of a connection out there. Before this, I had worked as a catering bartending service. I worked as a bartender there, kind of moved on to event management, and then I took over the warehouse and order and stuff like that. From there, I kind of moved on. I wanted to be able to grow a little bit more. It was more of a smaller company that I was with. So then I ended up with Wines and More. From there, I started out as assistant manager. Then within about 10 months, I moved up, hopefully, as an applicant now for the new store manager job.
terrific. Well, thank you for coming in tonight. Thanks for the discussion here. Any questions for Jonathan from the board? Being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the change of manager for Wines and More to Jonathan Gentile.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much. I
Thanks.
appreciate that.
Thank you for
Thanks.
coming in tonight.
Okay.
We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're not at 7:45, so I won't call open forum yet, so we can allow people to arrive for that. So we'll move on with our new business, and the first order in our new business is an open meeting law complaint that we received in the past week. And so our board needs to deal with the complaint, and there's a prescribed process for doing that. So we must first, I as chair have to disseminate the complaint to the board, which has been done. The public body, which is us, must meet to review the complaint, which is what we'll do tonight. And then after review, but within 14 business days, we need to respond to the complaint in writing. And so we'll discuss how we're going to do that tonight. So what I'd like to do first is just read the complaint into the record and then open for discussion with the board, and then we'll close with a motion. So the complaint is from Chris McKenzie, and the complaint states, the Board of Selectmen had a hearing to discuss a contract and instead discussed my character, my physical state, supposed actions by me that had not even been mentioned to me, but discussed with members of the board. Statements that I, quote, dreaded going to the board, unquote, when in fact I wanted to go before the board, but was told, along with my wife present, quote, they didn't want me to go before them, I should sign or be fired, close quote. We were told, quote, you have two people that want to press charges and testify against you. You will rip the department apart. You will be on the news because of your status and family status. They had their minds made up, and one member of the board has been very public about that statement since. He also sent a letter to a prospective employer, post-dated October 21st, 2019, referencing the executive session. Yes, I strongly believe this violation was and is intentional because it keeps continuing. The town of Walpole keeps referencing my thoughts, words, and actions, including the latest email on 12/17/2019, and that email contains flat-out lies. In the clarification email, it is left out that I was told in my driveway about the changes to the contract and told if I didn't sign it right then, the Board of Selectmen would go ahead with my termination. During these dates, the Board of Selectmen also uploaded unapproved shorthand notes from executive session. They then released a set of redacted minutes, but removed them to replace them with a shorter version with a town council opinion. One of the selectmen has done Facebook posts and now a cable show that continues to slander me when in fact it is spreading lies. When in fact is spreading lies. The quote, the condition that I walked into the establishment, close quote, from an executive session that he should not have been discussing what it was or I should have been represented. The action requested is review the actions of the board and chief of police and make appropriate sanctions. Review the entire mishandling, misrepresentation, slander, and other personal, very public attacks that have resulted from a string of executive session violations and public misrepresentation of the truth from the beginning by all those in power above me. And that's signed Chris McKenzie.
Before we go any further, I
Sure.
just want to mention that I am going to be recusing myself from this, and so before your participation, I'll be
Fair
stepping
enough.
down.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
So that's the, sorry, you're trapped on that side. So that's the complaint and actions requested. My view on this, and we'll open up for discussion of the board, is that there are a lot of things that are said in this, and many of which fall outside the purview of the open meeting law. And my recommendation is going to be that we delegate to Jim to work with Copeland and Page to draft a response within the 14-day window. So with that, I would open up the discussion to the board. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a preliminary question.
Sure.
The agenda list, it says discussion regarding open meeting law complaint. Is that properly noticed as a public notice for a hearing on that issue today?
Lauren, could you come up and address that, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Lauren Goldberg, KP Law. The meeting notice is supposed to be specific, and it refers to a complaint. It can include more information, but it is noticed for tonight.
So the fact that it doesn't contain the person who filed the complaint, nor does it indicate the body in which the complaint was filed against, or the date of the complaint, doesn't bother you? You feel that this has put the public on notice as to what was going to be discussed tonight?
Well, it is my understanding that it's on the board's agenda, and therefore it's the board that's dealing with it. And as I said, I don't think it's necessary that the name of the complainant be listed. I think it's fine if it does. But in my opinion, you can discuss this evening. And of course, if there were an open meeting law complaint filed about it, you would be able to, in the future, discuss it again and rectify any inadvertent omission in the posting.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. Anything else, David?
Yeah.
Sure.
So, today's meeting agenda, as we just discussed, merely states a discussion regarding open meeting law complaint. I don't think it fairly puts the public on notice of what this meeting is about. I think that the agenda should have said, filed by Christopher McKenzie against the Board of Selectmen on a particular date. It's almost as if the name Christopher McKenzie is the name that must not be said, because over the last several months, we appointed a new deputy chief today, and we never had any discussion that there was an opening. There was no even an announcement that we no longer had a deputy chief. And so Christopher McKenzie's name, if it gets discussed, I get shot down or people are upset. And this is not unusual. On the November 5th agenda, in discussion of the inadvertently released notes of the executive session in which Christopher McKenzie's resignation was discussed, the agenda item was listed as Town Administrator's Update regarding October 28th social media post. Again, no mention of what the meeting was about, what it was, does that put the public on notice of what this meeting was about, of what was going to be discussed that night? What could be discussed in a October 28th social media post is as varied as the world is wide. It failed to put the public on notice. And for those, And so we have these two, in this, give me 1 second. So for those of you keeping score, in the 8 months of the chairman's tenure as chairman, we have 3 open meeting bylaws and open meeting violations, in my opinion. The initial executive session, which I will get into in a minute, the way that it went into executive session was also a violation. The November 5th meeting, which merely state town administrator's report about the October 28th social media post, again, a violation, and tonight's agenda. It's almost as if the events surrounding, and all of 3 of these violations surround the events of Mr. McKenzie's resignation. And it's almost as if the Chairman O'Neill doesn't want people to know what's going on. As to the allegation tonight that we violated the open meetings law, I wholeheartedly agree that we violated the open meetings law. I said at the night of that meeting that the chairman had indicated the wrong exception to the open meetings law. He had selected that exception number 2, which is to, and I'll read it to you, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The employment contracts contemplated in this rule are contracts between employer and employee regarding an agreement to render services for certain compensation and other conditions of employment. The more proper rule would have been exception 1. Exception 1 clearly contemplates a situation where the employee-employer relationship is being severed. And that's the situation we have here. That section states that there is an exception to the open meeting law, and this one I've trimmed down a little, to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. And perhaps this is why they chose the other section, because with that process of having a hearing, the board was to invite that person to the board meeting, give them 48 hours notice, give them an opportunity to be heard, have them allow their counsel in the room, although the counsel couldn't participate, they could be in the room, and they were allowed to be present and speak. That did not happen here. We violated the open meetings law.
I'm going to disagree with you, David, on pretty much everything that you've said.
That's fine, thank you. And so I agree that with Christopher McKenzie that a violation has occurred. And I also agree that with his proposals for getting by this and having a resolution to this matter. The form itself, as you heard, has a listing for suggestions as to how to resolve this situation. And what Mr. McKenzie indicated is that there should be a review of the actions of the board and the chief of the police and make appropriate sanctions. And to review the entire mishandling, misrepresentation, and slander. I agree. We should be open and transparent about the entire investigation, as Christopher McKenzie suggests. We should bring an outside agency or firm to address various concerns raised by Christopher McKenzie in the complaint and by Nancy McKenzie in a recent Facebook post, as well as other lingering issues. An investigation is necessary because mistakes were made by this board, and it's important to restore the confidence of the people in its police department. Because of the vacuum of information that has been allowed to occur by the chairman's actions, there have been a wide range of speculation, and I'll give you 2 examples that are completely diametrically opposed. Nancy McKenzie has alleged in a Facebook post of January 2nd that there was basically a police department conspiracy to oust her husband. While there are other people in the public who are indicating that there is a police department conspiracy to hide a crime. Now, these both cannot be true, but they both can be false. Then we ought to be looking into all of these allegations. In order for this process to be legitimate, at minimum, the following allegations need to be addressed. There are all the allegations that are addressed by Chris McKenzie in his complaint, all of the allegations addressed by Nancy McKenzie in her Facebook post, and some additional allegations. This is a long list. I could not winnow it down because I didn't feel that would be comfortable. So, an allegation by Christopher McKenzie. Christopher McKenzie states that and alleges that the board was informed that he, McKenzie, just dreaded going to the board when he in fact wanted to go to the board. The action item I suggest on that matter is that an investigation should take place of any efforts to improperly dissuade Christopher McKenzie from exercising his rights to defend himself against the allegations. Another allegation, Mr. McKenzie wants to address the fact that statements were made that the board, did not want me to go before them, I should sign or be fired. Again, there should be an investigation as to who suggested that there not be a full airing of the allegations or that would not be a full opportunity to be heard if Mr. McKenzie so chose. Allegation by Mr. McKenzie. Mr. McKenzie states, and I quote, we were told you have two people that want to press charges and testify against you. You will rip the department apart. You will be on the news because of your status and family status. They had their minds made up. And a separate section, one member of the board has been very public about that statement since. That one member of the board is me. Action items. An investigation should take place of any efforts to improperly dissuade Christopher McKenzie from exercising his rights to defend himself against the allegations. Action item number 2, an investigation should be pursued as to whether Mr. Salvatore's statement that could be construed as supporting the notion that they had their minds made up and whether those statements were improper. Allegation by Krista McKenzie that David Salvatore sent a letter to a prospective employer post-dated October 21st, 2019, referencing the executive session. Action item, an investigation into whether I sent or caused to be sent an anonymous letter or note to the town of Seekonk regarding Mr. McKenzie's status and to determine if I violated any ethical rules or exonerate me from the conduct alleged. And I'll start that investigation right now. I will tell you that I did not send a letter or cause to be sent a letter. And I will also tell you that if I were to have contacted the town of Seekonk, I would not have done it anonymously. I was only respecting that the agreement ended November 1st. Had this happened after November 1st, I would have contacted them directly. And if I was going to do something anonymously, it wouldn't have been in a handwritten note. It would have been in Times New Roman. Allegations by Christopher McKenzie that an email of 12/17/2019, that email contains flat-out lies. In the clarification email, it is left out that I was told in my driveway that changes to the contract and told if I did not sign it right then, the Board of Selectmen would go ahead with my termination. Action items. A determination needs to be made of what specifically Mr. McKenzie believes are flat-out lies. Make a determination as to whether stating that Mr. McKenzie needed to sign or proceed towards termination is a proper restraint upon Mr. McKenzie's right to proceed to a full hearing on the matter. Allegation by Mr. McKenzie that it is a lie that the condition I walked into the establishment from an executive session, that's in quotes, from the executive session that should not have been discussing what it was or should not have been represented. I quoted directly, it's hard to understand it, I quoted directly from the document, but I am correctly being credited with making that statement during the executive session. I made that statement because there was a lot of concern about protecting the victim and not requiring them to testify. It is my recollection that I received information during this process that Mr. McKenzie was in a condition that, as such, that when he entered the premises, he could have been subject to firing. Let's investigate that, let's find out. I will, so a determination needs to be made as to whether I was within my rights given the information presented and the facts obtained to make such statements in executive session. Allegations by Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Gallifin against me that by speaking out on the issue, I am violating the provisions of the state ethics code. The investigation of this item should be extended to members of all the boards that participated in executive session and to the town administrator. Also investigated should be any PR consultants or any other individuals that were brought in to work on this matter during the pendency of this matter. Action items. Determine, as I first requested in November, on or about November 1st, what is and what is not a public record. What can we talk about and what do we have to keep silent? I asked for this recommendation. You heard me ask for this on the video, and I still have not seen a decision on that. Gather all statements of all the above individuals regarding this matter up until October 28th, and determine if any statements were improper dissemination of information obtained in executive session. Number 3, gather all statements of the above individuals regarding this matter after October 28th and prior to November 1st, and determine if any statements were improper dissemination of information obtained in executive session and was disseminated, and whether information was disseminated beyond the reporting of the fact of and what was contained in the inadvertently released notes. Gather all statements of the above individuals regarding this matter after November 1st and determine if any statements were an improper dissemination of information obtained in executive session and beyond the information released in the redacted minutes. Nancy McKenzie's allegations. That people were motivated by, open quotes, political, personal, vindictive, self-serving, or workplace gains when they made their mission to target them, a power couple. Determine action items. Determine what people Ms. McKenzie is referring to. Item 2, determine if anyone misused their power and position to target the McKenzies for political, vindictive, self-serving, or workplace gains. Nancy's allegation. Someone claiming to be a friend spent a week plus destroying Chris's reputation, and they kept us conveniently not aware or able to defend or stand up for himself. It's probably because they were doing something dirty and untruthful. Determine the person against whom Ms. McKenzie is making that allegation, and then determine whether Mr. McKenzie or his wife should have been made aware of the investigation prior to its completion, which is basically what she is asking. Nancy McKenzie's allegation that there was an inadequate investigation and stating, in quotes, you don't investigate when you're afraid the lie will fall apart. Action item. Make a thorough review of the investigation, including allowing outside investigators to talk to any and all witnesses while still assuring the confidentiality where appropriate. Some concerns that I have that I would like to see investigated. There should be an investigation of any contact between Nancy McKenzie, members of this board, legal counsel for the town, the police department, witnesses, and town administrator related to the investigation or the conduct of the former deputy chief. Action item, gather all contacts made between Nancy McKenzie and the above-named parties, determine if any of the communications could be interpreted to be intended to affect the investigation. Action item number 2, review the above contacts and determine if they are improper individually, and then look at all of those contacts and determine whether, as a whole, they can be construed to be designed to or intended to affect the investigation. Christopher and Nancy McKenzie are seeking an open and transparent review of the entire situation, a position that I agree with and have been advocating from the very beginning. I deserve to have a full investigation into the allegations against me as well. The town, the McKenzie family, the board, the Walpole Police Department, and the victim deserve to see this matter made right for us to be as transparent as possible, as quickly as possible. Thank you for giving me this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. Other comments?
Go ahead, Ben, sorry.
Yeah, so I guess I would just say that I think that whole bit, David, completely mischaracterizes this OML that we're here to discuss, but I guess that's besides the point. The other thing that I would like to reiterate is when we talked about this a couple of months ago, I had made the comment that we should try to reduce the temperature on things instead of increase it. That these sorts of issues that we all find emotional can lead to these sorts of conflicts, can lead to personal issues, a continued tit for tat, and it just degrades the discussion. It creates a lot of personal animosity, and it's really completely unnecessary. In the case of this OML, we have processes in place at the town level, processes in place at the state level to assess it, to review it. We need to let that inquiry take its complete course, and then once we have the findings, then we need to act on it. And we can sit here and we can have an intelligent discussion about what the findings are of that inquiry, and we can move on. Baseless accusations, casting aspersions, conspiracy theories, of which we've heard a couple already tonight, do nothing to bring this dialogue to any sort of conclusion which helps anybody or clears up any issues. So I would just ask again of myself, my fellow board members, and also residents that we try to conduct ourselves reasonably and responsibly, respectfully to each other, even if we disagree. And once we have the findings of this inquiry, we can move on. And if there's other inquiries that need to happen, then there's processes for those, and there's a right way to go about it, and we can see it through. So I think that we should take it from there, and then once we come back to this with the findings, then we'll discuss it. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. Mark?
Ben, well said. So I'll just say I like the approach that you proposed, Jim, to have Jim Johnson work with council to take a look at these issues. I will say that in David's rants, there was a lot of misinformation that came out. And
most of that was from Ms.
everybody saw
McKenzie's
David
Facebook post.
On camera admit that he violated executive session by releasing information. So
And I
a lot of
welcome the
things that have
investigation,
happened,
and I welcome the
were tied
investigation,
into
as I just
things that
indicated.
David said. So I'd just like people to kind of keep that in mind, but I think that was a good suggestion, Jim. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Mark. So I do want to just say that here's the bare bones of the situation. We had a personnel issue in the town of Walpole involving a town employee. The proper people, the people who are tasked to deal with these issues, were engaged and engaged properly. We followed proper process, and we got to a proper resolution. So there are many things that are being said, many wild ideas and aspersions and who knows what else. The bottom line is that's what happened, and I don't believe this board did anything incorrectly. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to move to designate the town administrator to work with town council to issue a response to the open meeting law complaint from Christopher McKenzie dated December 30th, 2019, on the board's behalf, consistent with the board's review of the complaint, and its discussion of the complaint at tonight's meeting.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
David, please.
I'd like to be involved in that process. I'd like to make my position known to the state as in regards to the situation here and offer some, one of the things that the state looks for is admission of mistakes and pathways to resolve the mistake. And I think I could be useful in that process. And in addition, while I have the microphone, I'd also ask that at the next board meeting that that the chairman put down an item to discuss how we can go about having a review of the conduct of this board, of my conduct, of other people's conduct, and the allegations that are out there by some outside agency or some outside firm. And I would like to discuss that at the next meeting.
Is that a motion?
I don't think it's properly noticed for today. I'm asking that you put, in your role as creating the agenda, that I ask that you put it down on the next agenda.
So I'd like you to put it in the form of a motion, please.
I will send you an email requesting that you put it on the agenda. It's not properly noticed for today. I know you have a strange relationship with the open meetings law, but I don't think it would be properly on the calendar for today.
Okay, enough. We have a motion. Do we have a motion, actually? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, we have a second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. Unless
Abstain?
you're not amending it to put me at...
No, I am not. 3-1-0, the motion passes.
I'll file my own brief, I guess.
Okay, we're now at about 8 o'clock, and so it is time for open forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak at open forum? Yes, Sarah.
Good evening, thank you. Sarah Khatib, Frontier Drive. This is, go ahead and say your name.
I'm Alex Coleman. I'm a Walpole resident.
So we came here tonight to just tell the board about something that a small group of us have been working on, and really tell the people at home that the first annual Walpole Random Acts of Kindness Day, which we've set for this Friday. And we have a two-page flyer that we've developed. I can share with the board. It's kind of late right now, but if there's any way you could post it somewhere in Town Hall. Basically, we are encouraging town residents, businesses, Town Hall, anybody to, participate and be kind. So do random acts of kindness, to your neighbors, to your friends, to your coworkers. We have a whole list of 100 ideas. Donate if you can, donate your time, and we'd just like this to be an annual event where we all, do random acts of kindness to each other. Alex, I don't know if you want to add something?
Yeah, it was just an idea that I had heard about. Somebody started it in Melrose, and it's really taken off for the last 4 years. And I just thought in this world today of conflict and division that
It's timely.
that this is something that everybody can easily participate in. And some of these acts, they range in size. So some are very small, and some require more involvement.
Nancy.
I think you guys are doing a great job so far on social media. I don't know if we could maybe get the rec department to do a blast. Jim?
Sure.
I sent Jim an email with the flyer that I can
Yeah, I
follow
got
up with
that from
another.
Melrose, right? Yeah.
No, this one, the
No,
one that
no,
we've
this-
developed.
you'll get
It
it,
included
sure.
the list
Yeah.
of Melrose,
We
yeah.
sort of modified it
Sure.
to be more local.
Okay,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Great.
that'd be great.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
I just say great idea, so.
I agree. Great idea. Thank you very much for coming forth with that, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak at open forum? Okay, so we'll move on. Our next order of business is to vote reimbursement for Chapter 90 project 1901 paving and resurfacing in the amount of $796,902.62.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for reimbursement, Chapter 90, Project 1901, paving resurface in the amount of $796,902.62, and for us or you?
For the Board of Selectmen.
For us to sign the documents.
I'll
Board of
second
Selectmen.
And before we take the vote, so thank you for the motion in a second. Before we take the vote, Jim, do you want to just say a couple words about what this is about?
No, this is the annual, each year we come before town meeting, we'll request a certain amount of roads to be paved throughout town. And this is just the annual reimbursement form. It's been reviewed by Rick and Donna, his administrative assistant, and it's good to go.
Great, thank you, Jim. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. Thank you. Next up, vote for a one-day all alcoholic license for the Knights of Columbus for January 11th, 2020.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. And now, Jim, the town administrator update for revenue and expenditures for the upcoming budget process.
You may recall, I think last meeting or the meeting before, we talked about having a discussion with the board about basically a broad overview of the budget, where I stand with it. I highlighted a couple of items here that I'd like to bring to your attention. The current budget as it stands is balanced. It utilizes the full projections of Prop 2 CAF. We also have about $875,000 in there for new growth. And license and permits is the one area that I'm a bit concerned about, not, red flags or anything. It's just, we have our eyes on it. We're projecting about 1.2 million or so in that, 1.1 million. And we had budgeted 1.25 million. So I'm just keeping a mindful eye on that. I have reduced the projections for next fiscal year down to $1 million for that line, just in light of that. The police department, right now, what we're proposing, what the chief had requested from me was 3 additional officers, one of them being a lieutenant position. I'm pleased to say that this budget contains a lieutenant and two new police officers there, so that'll bring their numbers up to 47. And here, the chief and I met a lot about lieutenant and making sure that the department's not top-heavy. And I actually asked him, well, spell it out for me. How does Walpole compare to other towns? And one of the towns he compared us to was Danvers, and Danvers is about the same size as Walpole. And I think their reporting structure is they have, I think, 3 or 4 lieutenants. We currently only have 2. And he wanted just to make sure that we're covering all of our bases. Right now, the sergeant handles some of the duties, and it can complicate things since the sergeant is in the union, and he's dealing with sergeants who are more superior to him. So that was John's #1 priority, is to get a lieutenant in there. And I know he is out in the hall, and he can come in and touch base if the board would like to get in with that. One other item in public safety that I'd like to highlight is the fire department. Right now, as it stands, we are adding a firefighter in there for the full year. That'll bring the groups up, 2 groups of 9 and 2 groups of 10. I would hope eventually to get to 10 across the board. I know the chief would like to see as many as 16 or so across the board, and staff East Walpole. I know that's some time out, but I think the more we can get a little aggressive and get there and make sure that there's as many firefighters and EMTs on the ground as possible would be a good thing for the residents of the town. On the school side of things, right now, as it stands, the balanced budget has a 3% increase over FY20. I met with Superintendent Goff and School Business Manager Mike Fisher yesterday, and they're looking for somewhere in the order of 4%, which is about $464,000, additional to what I've recommended, just to maintain level services and meet the mandates that are being passed down here to the local government. They're expecting the school committee is going to come back with a 5% request, which is just about $994,000. If we do the 66-34 split, that's almost $1.5 million in additional revenue that I would need to identify. I wouldn't push for the $1.5 million, or the town's budget is balanced at this time, on the town side, not the school side. So I wouldn't be looking to raise an additional 1.5 as far as that's concerned. I have asked them to review their fees. You know, their busing fees, from what I understand, hasn't been raised in 7 years, 6 or 7 years. They stand at about $275 a family or per child, capped at a 2-child limit. And some of the athletic fees, and no one likes to hear the word fees, but I asked them, I said, we got to split this difference somehow if you want me to try to attempt to bridge the gap here. I'm optimistic that our health insurance projections, which is currently budgeted at about an 8% increase, will come in lower once we get those numbers, probably mid-February. In addition, I also have $200,000 as budgeted for an increase in the Tri-County in Franklin. That was just a preliminary estimate. That's about a 24% increase in their budget. I'm really hoping that they don't come in that high. So there's some bridging that's going to be needed to be done during the spring months, February, March, April, to make sure we get them as close as possible. And they're going to have to talk to the Finance Committee, but at this point, the revenues that I'm projecting, I'm comfortable with. I don't want to overstretch the town, and I don't want to put us in a bad situation next year where I'm coming to the board saying, we're not meeting projections. We're going to need to make some cuts somewhere or tighten the belt or reduce spending here or there. But if I am pushed, there's other sources I could find. I could increase new growth a bit, potentially, or a few others. But I'm telling you now what I'm giving you, I'm comfortable with. So if any board, your board, Finance Committee, School Committee wants to push that, we can do that, but I would ask that the board take a vote directing me to do so. Because come after January 28th, I hand off the budget to Finance Committee, and it's their budget to present to town meeting. A couple other just quick highlights. Highway Department, I'm projecting to add 1 person in there at about 55 or so thousand. We haven't, in 1980, the town had 14 highway people in our highway department. Today, we have 7. We've had 7 since the mid-90s, so this would bring them up to 8. We've added 30 miles worth of roads since 1980, and I think it's time to get something in there. It's needed. And just to give you some perspective, as far as what departments are asking and what I'm recommending, departments have asked for about $98,663,000 in requests. I am recommending $97,147. That's a difference of about $1.5 million. We've been criticized at times for taxing to the max. You always tax to the max. You always go up to the 2.5% levy. We do that because what we're being asked to do does not even meet that 2.5%. I could certainly build a budget at less than 2.5%. The departments that would suffer would probably be DPW, police, fire, and school department. They're telling me that they need more than what I'm comfortable with projecting. But this is one of the reasons I want to have this discussion with your board, because you tell me reduce it down to 2.4, 2.3, you can certainly do that. But I need to know now in order to have the next 2 or 3 weeks to do that, to present a balanced budget. So with that, kind of ask if you have any comments.
Yeah, so nice recap, Jim, and glad to hear that you've got it to a balanced budget. And I like a lot of the things that you've got going on in terms of the police and fire. Did you get into any specifics with the schools that would tell us, what that 4% is driving towards?
Yes, I did. And essentially, it's...
And I don't want to front run the schools here, so but if you've had conversations...
We've had a detailed conversation about
great,
it. So
thanks.
there's 2 major items here that's driving the schools. They are the Medicare money, which each year we go forward, and I think this year was close to $600,000 that was certified as part of free cash that we put back into the school budget. They expect to see a reduction of I think $315,000 in that line. The federal government has come forward and they said, we're not going to reimburse you certain submittals that you put in. They don't know the specifics, but they're expecting a $315,000 cut. They're also expecting $277,000 in sped transfers into the town. And so those are the 2 major driving factors.
So they start out almost 600,000 in the hole.
Without those 2, even with just one of them, they'd be in fine shape. They didn't really see this Medicare thing coming. We've been doing this for 10 plus years, where it's more of they work hard, they collect the fees throughout the year, certified as free cash, and we put it back into the budget. They've become reliant upon that, and that's no fault of their own. It's just something, it's just what happened. And they're also looking at a few mandates that are coming down. The federal government is mandating that they need another PE teacher at the high school. That's about $55,000. Another English as a second language professional needed. That's about $55,000. And just to get full day K, a little bit more money, $50,000. That would reduce the fees roughly down from $1,800 to $1,600. So this would be FY21 would be year 4 of the reducing the full day K. If we get aggressive on that one, it's going to be a lot more that they're going to need there. So.
Gotcha.
And one thing to talk about the DPW, before Bob O'Brien had retired, he came in and had done a full presentation for us, comparing us to other towns that were like us. And then we were just, did not have the manpower, but yet we were so much bigger in space. And I think some of, especially like the Beautify Walpole and the downtown stuff, we don't have the manpower to be doing it. I mean, we have fabulous people that are helping, but just this past weekend, I was talking to Jack Wiley, and he was talking to me about all like the nip bottles and the cups that happen in South Walpole as you're like heading down Washington Street towards the details. Everything gets thrown into everybody's bushes all along there. And maybe, it would be great if we could have like barrels along the way there. I mean, not that we're encouraging any sort of anything, but at least it's not in the neighbors' lawns. But the thing is, we don't have people to pick it up. That's like overtime. So it's like, I do think we need to expand the DPW. I mean, we just, I think they do a fabulous job with what they have, but they, compared to other communities, are spread so thin. And it's busting at the seams.
Sure.
Other comments, questions? Mark?
So, yeah, let me jump in. Jim, I think you've done a great job of the budget. I like the fact that it's balanced. I'm going to try to unbalance it a little bit for you. So,
Okay.
One of the things we've talked about in the past is, and I'm glad we're doing some more for the police department, trying to get some new officers. I do think we need to keep increasing as the town grows. Specifically on the fire department, I'd really like to see us try to get to 10 firefighters per shift. I know that we're running our ambulances more now that both of them are advanced life support. I think that's great. Let's bring in a little extra revenue. I also know from talking with the chief that we can't send an engine out without 3 firefighters. We have 2 on a ambulance. If both our ambulances are out, we can only send out 1 truck. So looking forward, I'd like to see us continue to move forward to 11 and 12 and maybe 13, but start to think about that long-term vision. But in the short term, I'd really like to see if we can possibly take a hard look at, can we get to 10, maybe using some of the ambulance money. I know it's not guaranteed, it's sort of new money because it's coming in, in the period of time we've been running 2. But I think that's important as we grow, especially as all these new apartments and the co-op comes online. So you kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, I did.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew where I stood.
And I guess on that point, Chief Bailey's here. Chief, do you have a perspective on that in terms of the, what the numbers really need to be? And on top of that, we do need to think about the minimum manning in the contract because of the implications for overtime. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that you want to share with the board?
I actually have a whole presentation that'll take about 2.5 hours to give, so.
Thanks. Let's not do that.
But
Cliff notes.
in order to do it any justice, I would ask that possibly have a meeting with the board, a workshop like we've had in the past.
Sure.
To be able to discuss this in depth. I have asked for 16 across the board to get us in line with other departments. I did the community survey of all the departments that we compare ourselves to, and we are well below the majority of them with our staffing. NFPA says that we should have 2.27 firefighters per 1,000. We're currently at 1.55. That 2.27 that I mentioned, with the projected growth, which I've taken modest numbers and added them to the apartments, the housing, everything that we have that's currently being built. And I roughly come up with a figure of between 2,500 and 2,600. And I'm very modest with the 3 and 4 bedroom homes, and they only put 3 people in there, when in actuality, they probably should be 4 or 5. But I tried to keep it on the modest level so that those numbers weren't inflated too much. When you add that to the 25,142 that we were currently at when I did this program, and add the 2597 roughly that we came up to, it's almost 28,000 people, which when you take that figure, puts us at 63 firefighters, which is the 16 per group that I've asked for. One of the things to keep in mind, as Selectman Galvin mentioned, is that we run 2 ambulances. We have an 8-man minimum. When those 2 ambulances are out, which is a lot, we do about 2,200 transports with the ambulance. So they are going a lot. Each run is approximately 45 minutes to an hour turnaround time from the hospital. That leaves me with 4 firefighters, a captain in the car, 3 on the truck, to cover 21 square miles in our area. So I know it's going to take a lot to get to where we need to get. I'll take whatever we can as far as staffing. There are a couple of options that, again, would take a little bit longer to explain, but there is a program called the SAFER Grant, which the federal government gives out. That'll be coming out in March. I have talked with Jim about that grant process. I briefly mentioned it to Mark when he was in to see me. And what that does is it pays 75% first year, 75% second year, 35% on the third year.
Haven't we done that in the past?
And then, no. Not a SAFER grant. And then what happens with that is in the 4th year, the town has to pick up everything. So it does not include overtime, and it does not include benefits.
So I would certainly encourage you to apply for the SAFER grants, and perhaps that's a way to start gradually ramping up the people that you need, and doing it in a way that we're offsetting some of the costs through the grants, which allows us to then build it into the base going forward. Because I agree with you, I think we're undermanned, especially given the growth that we've seen in the town in the last few years, and I think it's something that we do need to address.
So we ran our numbers today again, just to make sure that we were on par, and we have increased by 26% since 2014, our call volume. So it's dramatic, and I do not anticipate that that's going to go down much.
I think the nature of the challenge has changed too.
It has.
You know, you've got many of these large, high-rise developments, high-density, tough to get at in some cases, buildings that are going up around town, and that's the reason for the new tower truck and all that. But you've got to have the manpower too. So I personally would like to spend some time, as you suggested, in a workshop setting, hearing you take us through the greater detail of your vision, and then start to put together a formal plan that says this is how we get there over X number of years, so that we can make sure that we have proper manpower given where we are as a town today.
I would welcome that opportunity.
Great, thanks, Chief. Any other questions for the Chief?
I did have one quick question. Chief, when you said the 2.27 Manning recommendation, where was that from?
NFPA.
NFPA.
So that was out of a chart that they had done back in 13-14. I've been in touch with my contact from NFPA, and they are currently running numbers for us again to verify those numbers. So I hope to have those in the near future.
All right, great. Yeah, and if we do a workshop or whatever to get additional information and discuss these, I'd love to take part in that as well. So thank you.
Be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, Jim, to just jump on the whole workshop idea, maybe we could schedule a workshop in February for police and fire, public safety, the whole, take a good look at that, just one session.
Yeah.
And really understand, to me, with all this new growth, it's a 5-year problem or a 10-year problem. And I think we gotta get our hands around it. We know the people are coming over the next 2 years, and I think we need to be as prepared as we can. So I think that would be helpful.
I agree.
Is it reasonable to include the highway department in that
That's
as well, or is that
right.
biting off too much? Is that a giant? We can talk about it.
Oh, we can certainly, we have Rick in and
Yeah.
Joe and.
Yeah.
So, Cindy, if we could find some time in February, it's probably gonna take a good couple hours to workshop to.
Going off night, Jim?
Yeah, what's that?
An off meeting night?
Yeah, an off meeting night, yeah, so that we can devote the right amount of time to it. And as Nancy points out, not during vacation week, obviously, so thank you.
Oh, yeah. Here, take the whole thing.
Any other questions for the chief?
No, not for the chief.
Okay. So chief, I think we're good, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just to circle back before we move on from there, Mark mentioned he'd like to see us get to 10. I'd like to see us get to 10. Is that one of the board's priorities while I'm kind of finalizing this budget? Is Jim, get as many groups to 10 as possible, or I'd like your input, you know?
Well,
If you're comfortable with 2 groups of 9, 2 groups of 10, I'll leave it at that.
Speaking personally, I'd like to see you get them to 10. But then I think there's a bigger question, which, we need to deal with in the workshop and figure out long-term where do we need to be. But for this budget cycle, I'd be supportive of getting to 10 on all the shifts.
Obviously, I'm the same, so.
I mean, I would be supportive of that. I just having this conversation and looking at this, and I just have a couple other comments I wanted to make, but specifically about going to 10 and 10. It sounds like there's a lot of needs out there through all of the departments, and so I would trust that you could balance those competing needs. If we are able to go 10 for 10.
Tough. I had the superintendent and the police chief in my office at the same time.
So I don't feel that I have a good enough understanding of the highway department's needs to sit here and be like, take from the highway department and add a firefighter. I feel like you do, and I would trust your judgment in that. But certainly, obviously, public safety is very important. Can I make one other comments now?
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
So I had sat down, and so thank you to Jim for sitting down with me as kind of the noob in this whole thing, and going through the budget details, what makes up the 2.5% increase, talking about the assessor, talking about the 2.5%, talking about the other factors that go into it, and the budget that goes to FinCom and comes before town meeting. So I really appreciate that, and getting into the details and understanding a little more about what makes up the increase in the budget every year. I've really come to appreciate what the department heads go through and how they've put into place plans looking forward. And so I know we heard from the chief tonight in the fire department of what we need going forward. So I just think it's critical that we have a plan. And so, this workshop that we would have would be perfect for kind of establishing that plan and setting some numbers and parameters through it. So we're not just sitting here like this being like, yeah, we should definitely add people. And then I guess the last item I would say is I'm just also cognizant of overextending ourselves. And I know that we talked about this as well, Jim, and you're very cognizant of that. But times are good, assessments have gone up, that we have enough money now to make these changes, but I also don't want to be firing firefighters or firing highway department workers. So it's a balance that we have to strike going forward. So, thank you.
Yeah, and it's well
So,
said. Nancy?
Just to build on that, police and fire are even more important to stay ahead of the curve, because otherwise they're gonna get hurt. I definitely think we're thin, as I said, on the DPW, and it needs to be addressed. But when it comes to just safety of the residents, safety of the staff, with the change of the housing, the change of the population, the change of the kinds of services, that's something that we just can't fall behind, because we don't want anyone hurt. So.
Well, and it is a great point that, obviously we think of public safety in terms of the residents of the town, but it's public safety of our firefighters and our police officers as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Any other comments for Jim?
Very well. We have the finance team here. I'd just like to recognize them. Dennis, Marilyn, Jody, Patrick. They all do a great job helping me out with the budget and putting this all together. It's a team effort. It truly is, and I rely on each of them so much. Dennis always jokes around. That's why I keep him around, because he helps me. He helps me so much throughout the process. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you all for your work, and I know how hard it is. Having been around this place for a while and been on the FinCom and watched what the budget process is all about, and over the years how much more complex it has gotten. You guys do a wonderful job, and really appreciate all your efforts, so thank you.
Thanks.
Jim, anything else on the budget? Do you need anything more from us?
No, I'm going to continue to work on it, and I'll do what I can to assist the school before we finalize everything. You know, there's some ideas that we kicked around today to get them a little bit closer, like 3.3%. I mean, 150,000 is not that much to them when they're trying to get to 464, but it helps a little bit. And I talked to the school business manager about, you know, let's work as a team on this one, not against each other, and they were fully committed to that.
Good,
So,
that's great. Well, thanks, Jim, and great job. Really appreciate all the work you've put into it with the team, so. Nancy?
Can we go back to the beginning? I know Ken isn't here and he hasn't gotten here, but I know he works long hours and things like that. Is anyone opposed to us putting him on the Ponds Committee? I know he had served there before.
I'd be happy to.
No, he's a Rivers Ponds guy,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Right.
That would be
Yeah.
fine.
I
Okay.
just wanted to give him his opportunity
To get here. I just
stand
don't
up,
want us to
so-
forget it.
Yeah, no, that's fair, so I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ken Southwood to the Ponds Committee as a regular member.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. And Ken, thank you very much for volunteering, we really appreciate that. Okay, so on to the consent agenda.
Motion to accept with gratitude the following donations: the Fisher Sunshine Fund to the Veterans Committee, New Pond Village Association to Library Gifts in the amount of $500, Lorraine McCabe to the Fire Gift Account, Juan and Catherine Chen to the Fire Gift Account in the amount of $200, Helen Hurahan to the COA Gift Account in the amount of $100.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. Okay, town administrator's update, Jim?
sure, just a few items. MSBA, the proposals for the OPM were accepted. I'm pleased to report that the town is recommending Compass Project Management to be chosen as the project manager going forward. Just before this meeting, myself, Patrick, David, sat in on that meeting. The board confirmed that. We're gonna go forward with February 3rd meeting for the MSBA. We're staying on track, which is really great. The subcommittee worked really hard to get everything in before New Year's and Christmas, to get all the evaluations done. So, anything to add, Dave?
Yeah, just a quick, so the committee had a large number of resumes, presentations, we got it down to 3. It was a scoring process, everybody put their numbers in, and basically everybody was true to their scoring method, so that no one person had an excessive control over who was gonna get selected. Compass obviously came in with a leg up with having relationships with the town on building the Council on Aging and the fire and police departments. And then 2 other companies were accepted. One didn't, in the interview process, didn't present itself well. The other would have done an equally good job, I believe. But I think, you know, it was certainly, I think it was almost unanimous that the top-ranked one for everybody was Compass, and, you know, or even in that first meeting, pleased with the selection, so.
Springtown meeting warrant is set to close at your next meeting. Cindy and I are working on the standard articles, and in addition to the Phil Chigurowski article, I know Housing Partnership's working on finalizing everything. So we will have a draft for your board to review, and then we'll send it off to town council, which will probably at least take 2 weeks after that to look over. Snow and ice, we continue to monitor it. We currently have spent about $250,000 there out of the 818 budget, and we'll keep keeping a close eye on it where we stand. That's it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
All right, we have minutes to approve. Minutes of December 3rd.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 3rd, 2019.
I'll second that.
And before we vote, I just want to, as I was looking at these, I know we had in these set of meetings on the, workshop. Yeah, I'm trying to, what is the topic here? It's the Phil Chigurowski one, applied for the Green Communities Grant Program. And we said that we would be interested in doing a workshop with Phil. And so, and actually, as I look at it, I think it was, yeah, so I think Phil offered us a workshop, and I just want to make sure we're following up on that. Can you just check back with Phil on it? And it, just because I know we agreed to do it, and I just want to make sure we follow through on that, okay?
And just a comment on that, Phil stopped in yesterday and asked if we were all set with the language. He was more than willing to help, and I said, right now, if there's a placeholder there, and if, I'll let him, of course, review the draft language as council and I kind of vetted out.
Yeah.
Along with the building commissioner.
Makes sense. If we're going to be the sponsor for the article, I just want to make sure we're really articulate on it at a town meeting, so. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the meeting minutes of 12:03. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. And 12:17.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2019.
I'll second that.
And likewise, we had a couple things that we talked about at that meeting that I want to make sure we're following up on. So we had the townhouse discussion where we talked about doing a workshop, particularly that whole notion of, could we figure out a way to do a public-private partnership? So I want to make sure we pick up on that. And then it was kind of mished in there, but the 300th committee we also talked about and wanted to make sure that we have the charge for that committee coming forward.
Okay.
So
So do you want to have like a work session on these couple of items, or?
I think we agreed to. We thought it was a good idea and that's reflected in the minutes. So I think we probably ought to figure out how to do. Now we should stretch these out. I don't want to get us workshop to death here, but I do think we should
one a
follow.
month.
Yeah, maybe one a month. Maybe
Yeah,
One a
to
month?
circulate,
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
here's our open dates.
Yeah.
Who's available.
And then something to note, Junior Women's does really want to be involved in the celebration.
Oh,
and the
wonderful.
planning.
That's great. Great to hear. So, and so maybe for our next meeting, could we just put together a charge for that 300th committee?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay. And I thought there was one other thing.
We already drafted that.
Oh, yeah, it was the Walpole Housing Partnership. So are you feeling good about where the language is at for the article and?
Yeah, so it went to the planning board with the 2-week notice before their next meeting. And
Yep.
then I would anticipate that we'll get a copy of it at the end of this week.
Okay.
And then, as Jim said, it'll also be as part of the process for us to get the articles and review them.
Okay.
So by the 21st, we'll have it, council's reviewed it,
Okay,
approved it, consultants reviewed it, approved it.
great. And are we confident that we've got the process all laid out?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
All right,
everything will be done by the 21st, in which
Okay.
case all the other issues will be.
wonderful. Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. So that concludes the agenda, thankfully, for tonight, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. We're now adjourned. Patrick, thank you very much for your help tonight. Good night.